The topic that I am trying to introduce to you today is innovation and entrepreneurship, the policy framework for higher education institutions. And I assure you that I will make it as quick as possible, because I do understand that for us teachers, it is difficult to listen, but it is easier to talk. So it's just an introduction on the culture that we have to build in our colleges, and what is the policy support and kind of policies that we have to develop in our own institutions for supporting this innovation culture. Okay, now usually things like innovation, entrepreneurship, startups were all seen only in the AICTE governed institutions or the technical institutions. So the first step towards creating a policy for startups or innovation or entrepreneurship began with AICTE, and in 2016 they released the startup policy document. And that was applicable in the AICTE approved institutions. So basically the technical institutions, the engineering colleges. And since then, the engineering colleges have started creating an environment of incubation support or pre-incubation support. We have such hackathons or competitions or student projects related to product development, all happening in engineering colleges. But then such things were not to be seen in institutions like ours, that is arts and science institutions. So when the government of India thought that this system or this environment of innovation and entrepreneurship has to move on to the arts and science colleges as well, because it's not necessary that engineers or professionals do all the innovation. It can come from even a layman. So why not create a policy that is applicable for all higher education institutions? So that is how they thought about an elaborate and comprehensive policy guiding document, which will be applicable for all higher education institutions in India. And then the MHRD ministry, it was then MHRD ministry created a committee which will look into how we can prescribe a policy document which will cover things like intellectual property ownership, revenue sharing mechanisms, technology transfer, commercialization, equity sharing, etc. So you can see that commercialization was also a very important part of this policy. And then in 2019, as you all know, as per the recommendations of this committee, the MOE or the MHRD came up with the National Innovation and Startup Policy 2019, which is applicable for students in colleges and faculty of all higher education institutions. So it's not just the technical institutes, but all the higher education institutions will be covered under NISP 2019. And I know that NISP, or the National Innovation and Startup Policy, is not something new, because many of the colleges have already adopted or are in the process of adoption of the NISP policy. Your college may have an NISP coordinator who will be looking into the implementation, and as well as for the first thing, formulation and then implementation of the NISP or Innovation and Startup Policy in your college. So these are things that may already be running in your college. So this is just a quick look into what are the features of this policy document. And so NISP is just a guiding framework. So you should see that there is a word guiding. So this is a guiding framework to create an educational system that is oriented towards startups, innovation, entrepreneurship. Not just for the students, but also for the teachers. That is, we can also be innovators. We teachers, as well as our students, can be innovators. We can be entrepreneurs. We can start startup companies using the facilities available in our institution. So this policy document that the government has released is just a guiding framework. It's not necessary that you adopt the whole policy, that framework that has been prescribed. We can definitely modify this policy according to the situation in our colleges. So the basic objectives of NISP policy was to have a cultural and attitudinal shift. And I think that first objective is the hardest to achieve, to have a shift in the way we think and create an innovation and startup culture. And that is what all of us are working towards. As IIC members, we are and encourage the faculty, staff, and students to participate in innovation and entrepreneurship related activities. The Mentor-Mentee program is such an example. Encouraging students and faculty to consider startups as a career option. And this is something very, very important, because all these years, we all had been teaching students with the motive that they would get a job, a good job somewhere, they'll work for the government, or they'll work in a good multinational company, and so on. But now we have to think about how we can transform these students to people who others. So this entrepreneurship, startups is a good career option. One broad or basic thing that the committee had in mind was to bring some kind of uniformity across higher education institutions. So this policy prescribes a set of measures which, if implemented, bring a uniformity in terms of IPR management, technology licensing, institutional startup policy, and so on, the way we commercialize, the revenue sharing mechanisms, and so on. So with these broad objectives, the government or MOE or the committee which was constituted for the purpose prescribed or brought out the National Innovation and Startup Policy in 2019. And now we'll see what are the basic features or the prescriptions of the Innovation and Startup Policy. The first set of policy features mentioned in the policy is regarding the strategies and governance. The first one, facilitate development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. The basic thing that NISP stands for is to create an attitudinal shift, create a cultural shift, and make the teachers as well as the students and other staff believe that innovation and entrepreneurship, startups, all these things are possible. And we should create an environment that is conducive for the growth of this culture. So development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem in the organization. Okay, so the institution in itself, that is our colleges and ourselves, should have a specific set of objectives that we would like to achieve. You clearly mention what are your objectives. For example, in the beginning stages, since the colleges like ours, we have just started off in this journey. And so it may not be possible for us to immediately reach to a situation where we create startups. But when we start off, we can definitely start by creating awareness. Just as Ms. Sonia said, creating awareness is definitely the first step. And all of us can definitely contribute towards that. Through our classes or training sessions, we can at least familiarize the students and our fellow faculty members with such terms like innovation, design thinking, critical thinking, product development, what is a prototype, and all these things. Definitely all of us have some basic understanding, since all of us as IIC members have already attended many training programs conducted by MOE. And all those videos are there still on YouTube. You can definitely access them at any point. And so we can start with such basic things where our primary objective should be to create an ecosystem that is friendly. So right from the principal till the students, all should be aware that this is possible, and these are the things that are required for creating an ecosystem of entrepreneurship. And definitely, it's not about just creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem. You should also, at the end of the day, try to find out whether things are working. So you also need to have performance indicators. performance indicators, create your own performance indicators, and then you yourself assess whether you have attained. That is, your college has attained these performance indicators. So this is a kind of a system that is suggested by NISP. And then the policy also says that it is mandatory that we create a strong leadership. We create a strong leadership. It's not just the principal or the management that creates that. We need leaders from our teachers who can coordinate such activities. And the members of the IIC, the NISP coordinators are the chosen ones. And the IIC and its members will be the core team who will take up this strong leadership to create this entrepreneurship culture in our colleges. And then, at the very beginning, there is one thing that we have to be sure of about. It is the financial strategy of the institution. And when we prepare the institution budget, make sure that there is an allocation for entrepreneurship. This requires a financial allocation. And the policy document, NISP policy documents, percentage of fund of the total annual budget of the institution should be allocated for funding and supporting innovation and startups. And when we say innovation and startups, it doesn't just mean the innovation and startups of the students, it also means staff members. So 1% of funds being but it's not a mandatory thing. But at least as members of IIC, we should be able to convince our institutions that this is required. So these funds can be used for awareness programs, conduct for competitions, giving them support to make prototypes or designs or make new innovations. It should be devoted entirely for I&D related activities. And then it may not be always possible to raise funds from within the institution. So MOE suggests that we should also try to raise funds from other sources, both government as well as non-governmental sources. In the slide, you can see many institutions which may give us support, like DST, DBT, the MHRD, now MOE, AICT, the TDB, the Technology Development Boards, the Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, TIFAC, DSIR, CSIR. There are lots of such governmental institutions. So you can just go to their websites and find out proposals or any assistance that is given for student startups or student projects, innovative projects. Many of these institutions give funds for student projects which are easily accessible. And then definitely we also have the CSR funds of companies. And there are many companies which support technology incubators. They support pre-incubation and incubation facilities in colleges. So we can just find out if there are any CSR initiatives. And definitely there are many other agencies. There may be locally many other agencies who may sponsor at least competitions or hackathons that can be done in our colleges. And definitely we always have this big possibility of engaging our alumni network. If you just look at our alumni, you may find many of our former students who have transformed themselves to innovators or entrepreneurs. You can definitely take their help. So it's not just about institutional funding from within the institution. Go for that should funding from outside, and that should be a part of our strategy. And then MOE also wants that this whole mechanism should not have hierarchical barriers. It's not that for every simple thing or whenever a student or a faculty wants to innovate, wants to do an innovative research that may lead to a product development, he or she should not be entangled in hierarchical barriers where you have to go in from one desk to the other for your approvals. So what it stands for is speedy decision making. So when you frame your policy in your institution, make sure that such barriers are minimal, and so that we can have speedy decision making regarding innovation and entrepreneurship. And then the I&D agenda to be promoted and highlighted at institutional programs such as conferences, all workshops or training programs that we conduct. So always keep in mind that we have an innovation, whatever we do, be it an extension activity or an outreach activity that we do in adopted villages, or we are organizing a workshop or a conference or a training program, always try to put in some elements relating to innovation and entrepreneurship so that the students and faculty will be familiar with such terms and they'll also start thinking on similar lines. And always, everything, if it has to work properly, we need to have proper action plans. So every year, prepare an action plan, prepare your targets, and at the end of the period, assess yourself and find out whether you have achieved. So make your own performance indicators. And then what MOE wants us to do is to have a product to market strategy. That is, it is not just about doing some kind of research, finding out a new innovative technology, and telling the world that I have found this out. Don't stop there. What MOE wants us to do is to create a product, innovate, create a product, and bring this product to the market. Bring this product to the market for sale, and only then this process is complete. Many a times what we do, especially when it comes to arts and science colleges like us, we have started thinking on lines of innovation. We are conducting awareness programs. We are sending our kids to competitions. They are winning. But then we have to now, as the next stage, try to find out if we can bring this product to the market. So try to bring this product to the market. So it has to be a product to market strategy. Key to the startup and innovation policy that MOE wants us to do. Development of an entrepreneurship culture should not be limited within the boundaries of the institution. So what we are expected to do is to go beyond the boundaries of our institution. So what today we are at St.Xavier's, we are trying to do is we are trying to go out of our institutions. That is why the reason why we are partnering with all other of the 5 colleges that we have today in the mentor-mentee program. And it's not just partnering with other colleges, it's also partnering with your local community, the immediate vicinity of your college. At the community level, there are various types of innovative practices that you can bring in. So as a higher education institution, we should be the driving force. Like, for example, we have adopted villages. Our NSS would have adopted villages. As part of the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, you might have adopted villages. In these adopted villages or in the immediate vicinity of their college or in the nearby schools, you can become the driving force in developing an entrepreneurship culture. So take up activities like seminars and conferences where you make these people, or you can take classes in these by partnering with the panchayats, nearby panchayats. You can partner with other institutions, other colleges or other higher education institutions. You can bring in faculty from other colleges. You can partner with the entrepreneurs in your locality. And so it's not just being within the boundaries of our institutions, go beyond that boundary and try to develop a culture of innovation. And then the second set of features is regarding startups enabling institutional infrastructure. How to create the institutional infrastructure and how to use the institutional infrastructure for innovation. So the first step would be to create pre-incubation facilities. It's not possible to directly start an incubation facility. So the first step would be to create a pre-incubation facility. Now, pre-incubation facilities, some of the facilities you already have in your colleges. You definitely have IICs. You may start IEDC or entrepreneurship development centers, startup cells, student clubs. They may be known by different names in different colleges, but definitely all of us have such facilities in our facilities. And nuances to register these pre-incubation facilities. It's not just that you start a students club or an innovation club, but start a strong pre-incubation facility which is preferably registered. It's not mandatory that it should be registered, but preferably registered under the Companies Act, or maybe it may be a society which is registered under the Society Registration Act. Definitely we can think of this, because if we have a registered center in our colleges, it would be much more easier for us to get funding opportunities or get resource persons and carry out our programs. And other relevant services through pre-incubation and incubation units. And definitely I'm sure that in many of the 5 colleges, the activities very because that's the kind of work that is going in many of the colleges. So you can offer mentoring to the nearby institutions, and this to your own students and also to other institutions. And this can be done when it comes to product development and commercialization. You can have your own norms for equity sharing, or it can be free at the beginning. You can offer free mentoring support. So that is up to the institution to decide what kind of mentoring that you will offer. Then, nurturing innovations in startups. Documents prescribes a few things. Firstly, establish processes and mechanisms for easy creation and nurturing of startups. Make it an easy process. So when you prepare your NISP policy, make it an easy process that a student can come up with new ideas. They can create new products or create a new process, and then they can turn it into a startup enterprise. This can be done by the students and the staff. So we should be very clear about that many of our teachers are doing wonderful work in the matter of research. You're doing good research work. You have your research output. Think about whether you can turn it into a new product or a new process. So that is definitely possible, and the NISP policy covers all staff members as well, and not just students. And this incubation support can be provided by the student, the college. The college and the IIC can take an initiative to set up an incubation facility in the college, where the new startups can use the facilities in the incubation facility in the college, the space, the infrastructure that has been created, that can be used maybe free of cost or with a small fee by the student innovators and the staff innovators. And they can keep the college or the institution as their base for these innovation activities. And if the college finds it difficult to start an incubation facility on its own, it can definitely partner with other colleges which already have this incubation support, or there are also other private agencies which will support you in such activities. And the staff and students should be allowed to take a license on technology developed by them. So I would specifically like to mention that MOE wants that the staff should also be given the freedom to take license for the technology that they have developed. The students and staff, both being a part of the institution, can take this up as their activity. licensing is also possible. Now, allow working part-time for the startups while studying or working, including social startups. So here, this is a very, I should say, a very important recommendation of the NISP policy document, that we should be allowed to work part-time. So there may be teachers who had these ideas of starting new businesses, but somehow we came up to teaching because of a love of teaching. But then definitely now MOE wants our management or the government to allow us to take up this entrepreneurship along with our work. So there can be some mechanism where we can take up this entrepreneurship as one of our part-time activities. And this NISP policy covers not just the commercial profit-based startups, but also social startups. So social entrepreneurship or social startups is also a possibility. So we can think about social entrepreneurships where we try to solve some problem of the society, the immediate society that we are in, or maybe in the adopted villages. There is a problem, suppose, with related to waste management, or there is a problem with regard to clean water, drinking water in the villages that we have adopted. Then you can think about a new technology that can be used to maybe recycle this waste, or a new technology that can be used to purify the water sources that are available in the villages. And then that can be implemented there with funding support from your institution or from any CSR funding. So such kind of things that we do are called the social startups or social entrepreneurship. So we can work on that. And the policy that we adopt in our institution should be such that it allows both the students as well as the teachers to work part-time on startups. Okay, and MOE also suggests that we should be giving credits to our students for developing startups. Maybe now all the BA BSc courses have a student projects. Even at the PG level, we have student projects in the final year that students do. So instead of that, we can think of giving them credits for starting any startups or innovation. Now, this is not a decision that we know. I know that with the type of setup that we have, we are all affiliated institutions. Most of we are not yet autonomous, and so we may not be able to take a decision on this single-handedly or independently. But then maybe we should realize that these are things that are coming up. So maybe in the next syllabus revision or in the couple of years, our university may also change the approach towards startups, and they may try to bring in this to the syllabus as well. So it may be within a couple of years, it may be possible for a student to do a project, which is a project which will ultimately lead to a startup. Or if a student already has an innovation, or he or she has started a startup, then he can skip the student project and he will be given credit for that. And this NISP policy also has got a broad range of such measures where students are given encouragement for starting startups. They have given many suggestions for encouraging students to start their own business enterprises. Like, for example, this NISP document tells that the students should be allowed to use their address in the institution. They should be allowed to use the address in the institution to register the company. So a student for St. Peter's College can use his or her address of St. Peter's College to register the company with the government. And NISP document also prescribes giving them exemptions for the minimum attendance requirements. We know that we need 75% attendance for appearing for exams. But this NISP document recommends that we should change our laws in such a way that students will be given attendance. Like we give for sports students, they should be given attendance for sitting in examination, and they should be given continuation for the time they spend in building startups. And this also goes to the extent that Students may even be given a semester or a year break for starting a new company. The student can work on their startup for a year, maybe they can start their company, and when the company gets rolling, they can come back and join in their second or third year, whichever may be. They can join back to their course. And we should also, the MOE document also tells us that we should even explore the possibility of providing accommodation to the student entrepreneurs within the campus, give them hostel facilities so that they can be in the campus for a longer time to work on their projects. And then it also prescribes that faculty and staff, not just the students, the faculty and the staff should also be allowed to take leave. It can be a leave without allowance or any other special leaves for working on startups, and then they can come back and join for work. So all these provisions, again, cannot be decided by the college because we are affiliated institutions and we work under the rules of the government. So I have included this in my presentation just to tell you that this is there in the policy document, in the guiding framework of MOE. So we can be sure that these are things which are coming. Within maybe a couple of years, we'll see all these changes being incorporated into the laws of our institutions, and we may be given freedom, much more freedom than we have now for starting startups and business enterprises, both for the students as well as the staff. So they have used the word staff. So it doesn't directly mean that they have to be teachers. They can be project staff or any other such kind of anybody within the institution can work for such innovation and entrepreneurship related activities. Then, as a basic strategy, they also prescribe that we should start more new courses, start part-time or full-time courses or programs on innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture development. Now, again, we have, as affiliated institutions, we have some limitations in starting new courses, but then we also have our own possibilities. We can start add-on courses on innovation, entrepreneurship. We can team up with other colleges and start add-on courses. And since now we are familiar with online education, we can start online courses for these so that we can save quite a lot of time. Or when we apply for maybe assistance under BO courses or any other such new generation projects that may come up, we can definitely think of starting courses in innovation and entrepreneurship and technology development, because all these areas are quite new for arts and science colleges. And in return for the services and facilities, the policy prescribes that the institute may take 2% to 9.5% of equity or stake in the startup company. That is, it should be less than 10%. That is the norm. When a company or a startup incubates in our college, when it incubates in our incubation center, the startup uses the facilities, the infrastructural facilities, maybe the internet, the computer facilities, the office space, everything in the college. And in return for the facilities that they use in the college can take up to 10% of equity. That is, the percentage should be less than 10%. So 2 to 9.5% equity in the startup company. And when it comes to the startups created by faculty members, the percentage is a bit more higher. That is prescribed. I think it is around 20%. This also becomes when in the initial stages, bringing in the funds is a very difficult task for us. But then, if we have a couple of startups incubating in our college, then definitely this also becomes a source of funds for the institution. And these funds can be used for our further innovation and entrepreneurship related activity. In the long run, there is a possibility of funds coming in if we allow startups to incubate in our facility. So institute could extend the startup facility even to alumni. It's not that we allow only our students. We can also open up the incubation facility to the former students of our college who would love to incubate. And so we should spread this awareness that this facility is available in our college. And all the faculty, alumni, and also we can partner with other institutions where students from other institutes can also incubate in our college. So there is a long way to go until we create an incubation facility. But creating an incubation is a very big task. So definitely we can start with pre-incubation and slowly move on to incubation facilities. Now, the policy document also prescribes about product ownership rights, which is a very controversial area for the technologies that are developed at the institution incubation centers. Now, when we form our policy document, we have to be very specific about IPR and related things. Things should be laid down properly as to what will be the mechanism of maybe revenue sharing and all such controversial areas regarding the rights on the startup company. Now, if a startup is incubated in our incubation center, then the IPR is to be jointly owned by the inventors and the institute. Because the student or the faculty are using the facilities in the college, they're using their address in the institution, so definitely the IPR is jointly owned. Now, but definitely greater rights will be to the inventors rather than the institute. Inventors and institute could together license the product if the institution facility has been used. So it's not just that any student starts a startup company, the college or institution will have the right. If the student uses the incubation facility in the college, if it uses the facilities of the college, then definitely the college also has got a right in the company. So, but definitely we should give more importance to the major right will be of the inventors and the institution's right will be limited. Now, how it has to be, it can be clearly laid down in the policy that we develop at the college level. And definitely the MOE recommends that there has to be a committee for dispute resolution. And in the committee, there will be at least 4 or 5 faculty members, and there will be external experts, legal experts. And this committee has to be formed for any kind of dispute resolution that may come up in future. And then the institution should encourage interdisciplinary research and publication on startup and entrepreneurship. So that's that's an area where all of us can contribute. Research and publication on startup and entrepreneurship. The institute can promote the staff and students to conduct research on such areas. The institutes can give funding or help the staff members to get funding. IICs can also play a major role in identifying such funding, because that is key to creating an environment in the institution, and also that is key for future product development or startup development. Now, what about the organizational capacity, the human resource development, and the incentives that will be given? Now, this is something which we may not be very happy about when we hear this. That is, MOE recommends that institutions from now on should recruit staff with I&D experience. So we would be wondering if 10 or 20, 15 years back, if the government had decided that only people with I&D experience, that is innovation and entrepreneurship experience, would be taken in colleges, all of us would have been in trouble. Because back at that time, we never thought of such things, or majority of us never thought of such things. All that we thought about was just doing some research, taking a PhD, or and so on. But then MOE again, why I included this in my slide, this is not the policy now. Even college recruitments are done as per the rules prescribed by the government of Kerala, especially in affiliated colleges and the UGC. And nowhere do we see about recruiting staff with innovation and entrepreneurship. But then we should understand that this is what is coming. In a couple of years, this innovation and entrepreneurship experience will be a very much an added advantage for a person to be recruited to a college. So definitely, with teachers who have patents on any product or process that they developed, such people would definitely be preferred in recruitments in colleges. And so even right from the recruitment stage, now in the future years, we may see that innovation and entrepreneurship would become very important. When we were recruited to the colleges, all that was looked upon was whether we have any research experiences. So we were more focused on doing research. But now we see a total shift, and it's clearly written in the policy document, in the guiding framework, that institutions should give importance to people who have I&D experience, who have an aptitude for entrepreneurship, who have actively participated in training programs and so on. And then the policy document also tells that staff members, it can be teachers or project staff members should be given incentives for I&D related work. So they are not telling us that these are the kind of incentives that should be given, but the college or the institution can itself think about what are the kind of incentives that can be given. Whether they can give the teacher a reduction in the number of hours of class that he or she has to take, or maybe they can be given a leave or for a period of time. They can be given a small fund for their research or related to I&D. They can be given more opportunities for conducting training programs. So all these things, it may not be easy for us to adopt everything because that's not the kind of laws that we have. But then wherever possible, this has to be incorporated. Then the MOE policy document also goes to the extent of telling that innovation and entrepreneurship should be considered for performance appraisal. We know that all of us know that we staff members have a performance appraisal criteria. We had what is called the PBAS, now we have the CAS. There they ask us whether we have done research, whether we have done community service, whether we have organized workshops, training programs, and so on. Now, in the coming years, what do we see? We see that innovation and entrepreneurship will be a key indicator in our performance appraisal. So MOE says that the institute can adopt such a performance appraisal. They can include innovation and entrepreneurship in our performance appraisal. Okay, so staff should be allowed to attend such classes and training programs, and we will be given credit for attending and organizing such I&D related programs in our performance appraisal. We can definitely conduct invited lectures on I&D. We have many, as IIC members, I'm sure that you might have been receiving lots of letters from various agencies who are conducting programs, short-term courses, lectures on innovation and entrepreneurship. If you look at your inbox, email inbox, you will see lots of emails coming from various sources, from various agencies. Is that in the coming future, this just as now research, we have research, key part of our role in the institution. Now, creating an innovation pipeline and pathways for entrepreneurs at institute level. So first and foremost, as was mentioned earlier, the key to creating entrepreneurs at the institute level is to give awareness about the value of entrepreneurship and tell your students that this can be your career. Tell them that your career option is not just being a scientist or just being a teacher or an engineer. It's about, or maybe a public servant. It is also about entrepreneurship. You can become an entrepreneur. and tell them that these are the agencies where you can get funding. These are the facilities that in the college that you can use, and you can start your transformation into an entrepreneur right from the college. Then we definitely have to change the way we teach. Definitely, the key role of us teachers is to change the way we teach. Go on to experiential learning. It's not just about taking classes, experiential learning. Give them training in skills like design thinking, critical thinking, etc. I'm sure almost all the IIC members here would have attended lots of classes on such things. Maybe you are not now you are not at a point where you can maybe take classes on design thinking or critical thinking, because these are things which are new to us. But then definitely in the broad area of innovation and entrepreneurship, there is something that you can contribute. There is some area where you have an expertise. So or you can definitely in the earlier stages think of inviting people who are experts in the field. Invite first generation local entrepreneurs. Invite, the very easy thing to do is invite your alumni who are entrepreneurs and give sessions like which will be an eye opener for the students. So move on to experiential learning. You take your students to such companies, show them how things work. You can take them to the startup villages, or you can take them to business enterprises, or you can give them a chance to meet new entrepreneurs. So the first generation entrepreneurs especially, and that will be an eye opener for the students. And establish institutions innovation cell. This is something that all of us have achieved. Already we have a well-functioning innovation council in many of your colleges. And what is more important is the institution should allocate appropriate budget for the activities of IIC, because otherwise the IIC activities will not be possible. Create a platform for the budding entrepreneurs to meet investors. Now, this is very, very, very important. And this is something that is lacking in many of our colleges. Create a platform where these student entrepreneurs can meet the investors and pitch their ideas. Because financing is the ideas can come up from our mind, from our research, from our readings. We can maybe come up with an idea. But then sometimes the ideas may be such that building a prototype itself will be a costly affair, or building a product would be a costly affair. So it's very essential that we give students a platform where they can pitch their ideas and they can meet their investors. So as a first step, you can definitely start small competitions in your colleges where the students get an idea about how to present their ideas, which I guess almost all the institutions here would already be doing that, because it's a part of the IIC activities, mandatory activities as well. So you can send them to competitions at the state level or at the national level. Now, it's very difficult for us teachers to change our mindset into such things, but it's quite easy for our students. Because I myself I was surprised actually with the way in our students have transformed in the last 2 years. In the beginning, Dr. Newley had presented to you about the IIC activities of our college, and you'd have seen that our students are being selected in a couple of competitions. They have won state level competitions by presenting their ideas, presenting their products. So that came as a very good surprise even for me, because I never thought that a normal arts and science college student could compete with even the engineering colleges and win the first prize. So, and there are many areas where they have gone into the final round. That is a commendable achievement. And so your the students of any colleges will do that. We just need to introduce them to such things. We have YIP challenges every year. You can send your students there. They will get training on how to present their ideas. They will get mentorship. They will get funding once they start winning such competitions. So you can create a platform where they can meet investors. And it's very easy to get an idea about what all this means, because you even have TV shows now which are based on this theme. Like, for example, Sony TV has this wonderful show called Shark Tank, which is a copy of the international show, where budding entrepreneurs come and present their ideas before established businessmen who are ready to invest in such startups. So even big businessmen are ready to invest in startups. So give your students an idea about how to pitch their ideas before investors. Now, towards the end, we move on to the non-faculty startup. Now, again, this is something new for us because we never thought about startups. But MOE's NISP policy has got clear-cut norms for faculty startup. I'll just briefly mention some of these, because all the things that have been said there are not possible in our college, because we function under the rules of the UGC and state. So there has to be changes in many of the rules, or these directions have to come from the government regarding how it is workable. But some of the suggestions I can definitely introduce to you. The role of the faculty in a startup can be anything. It can be owner, or you can be a promoter. You can just be a mentor or a consultant, or maybe a board member of the startup. So what does this mean? You can be anything. A faculty can be anything, from being a consultant or a mentor, or to being the owner of the company. So along with your teaching profession, MOE wants you to be given an opportunity to become an entrepreneur as well. So it's quite possible for you to become a teacher as well as an entrepreneur at the same time. But definitely, we don't know how far it is possible at present, but definitely it will come up. The norms will change in future. In case the faculty or staff holds the executive or managerial position for more than 3 months in a startup, then definitely we'll have to go on leave. It also suggests that it's not possible to continue in the dual role. For maybe 3 months, you can continue in the dual role, and then you may have to take a leave from your teaching profession, and then you will be given leave and you can concentrate on building the startup. So these are the suggestions of MOE. These suggestions, it may come up as rules very recently. I hope the university and the government also makes necessary changes. Now, teaching learning process, or the pedagogy and learning interventions for entrepreneurship development. These are some ideas that are given in the policy document. The student clubs, bodies, departments must be created, that we already have. We already have IIC, IEDC in most of the colleges. And then MOE suggests that we can give an innovation and entrepreneurship award. The best entrepreneur or the best innovator award can be given to students and staff members. Then, in the teaching method, as was mentioned earlier, you should go more onto experiential teaching methods, or you should take innovative methods like case studies on business failure and so on. Clearly, they have mentioned in the documents that you should introduce our students not just to successful businesses, but also to businesses which have failed. Mostly in our training programs, we show them the pictures of entrepreneurs who have successfully built startups. But that's not just the case. You should show them the businesses that have failed as well, so that they will know what not to do. Then, innovation champions should be nominated from within the students and faculty and staff. Many of you are innovation champions. You are innovation ambassadors. MOE has given us the title of being innovation ambassadors, and we'll take up the work of building awareness on innovation. You can also select innovation champions from among the students. And then, of course, you can start short-term, long-term courses in innovation and entrepreneurship. You can definitely think of starting add-on programs, because that is more easy. And survey on trends in technology, research, innovation, and market intelligence. This is one area where all teachers, all of us, within our disciplines, we can do our own bit. It's not necessary that you should have a science background to understand what is technology development or to do anything regarding innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, for the teachers who do not know me, I would like to tell you that I'm a teacher from the economics discipline. Nothing to do with technology, nothing to do with the product development. The only thing I know is to use some products that I need. Technology development is not my area, but then within this broad realm of innovation and entrepreneurship, there is some area where you can contribute. You can do surveys on technology, or you can do quite a lot of research on startups. You can do market surveys. So all these things are possible. You can study about the funding opportunities and familiarize the students and teachers about the funding opportunities that we have. So whatever be your discipline, there is some area where you can take, at least in the area of research. So that would definitely help our institution. That will also help, most importantly, our students to go a bit more further onto entrepreneurship and product development. Then definitely the policy wants us to collaborate, because co-creation and collaboration is the key. Otherwise, together we achieve more. That is the basic principle of this policy. Collaborate with other institutes, industry partners. Now that's what we are doing now. This is a kind of collaboration that we are doing now. Very soon, your institutions will become mentor institutions, and you will be able to team up with other institutes. Creating, managing, coordinating these relationships. You create a mechanism. Many of such mechanisms are being developed by MOE themselves through mentor-mentee programs and such innovative programs. So you can also create you can enter into MOUs with other institutions. Think the possibility about internship, student exchange programs, teaching and research exchange programs, and so on. So that's possible. Many subjects already have internships. So when you think of internships, think of internships which will help the students to think on the lines of innovation and entrepreneurship. And ultimately, this is the final. Finally, the policy document ends with this. MOE wants us to create this ecosystem and also create a performance appraisal system where at the end of the day, we appraise ourselves, or we judge our own performance and find out whether we are going good. So impact assessment of the institute's entrepreneurial initiatives, all kind of entrepreneurial initiatives, right from pre-incubation, incubation, entrepreneurship education, everything should be regularly performed and should be regularly evaluated. And for evaluation, you can create your own evaluation measures. Definitely, you can take performance indicators from Atal ranking performance indicators, but create an evaluation parameter for yourself, where there will be both short-term as well as long-term targets. Okay, so you can create this. At the end of your policy document, you should also have an evaluation process, or you should clearly define your evaluation parameters, and then you can evaluate your own performance. The number of startups that you have created, the kind of support system that is provided at the institutional level, that is the infrastructure that is provided to the startups, the satisfaction of the students and staff who use this incubation and pre-incubation facilities, then the new business relationships or the kind of agreements that you have with other institutes. All such things can be quantitatively analyzed, and you can give yourself credit for this, and you can create your own performance appraisal mechanism. And then all kind of impact. It's not just the technological impact, but the social, financial, and technological impact of all your entrepreneurial activities should be assessed. So it's about creating a policy document with all the necessary features that you want, and at the end of it, create a performance appraisal mechanism with which you will evaluate yourself. And MOE reminds us that commercial success is the only measure in the long run. That means you think you are creating an environment for entrepreneurship, you are encouraging your students for product development, you are encouraging or helping them in supporting them in starting a new startup. All your activities will be deemed to be successful only if this startup is commercially successful. So finally, your success will be measured. The success of the institution will be measured only on the basis of the commercial success of the startups that it incubates. So commercial success is the key. So we may talk about social entrepreneurship where commercial success may not be a very key thing. Social entrepreneurships may not be profit-based, but definitely what MOE wants us more to do is to create commercially successful business enterprises. So only if a successful business incubates from your institution, only then your institution will be deemed to be successful, or it will be considered successful. So these are the key elements that are prescribed in the NISP policy 2019. So let me remind you that all these measures that I talked about till now are only suggestive. These are measures which are suggested as broad guidelines. These are the guidelines that MOE has given us, and it is now up to us to draft our own policy by keeping these suggestions in mind, and whatever is possible we can incorporate into our policy. At the institute level, you form a committee with definitely the IIC members, definitely should be in the committee. The committee will brainstorm, and depending upon at what stage your institution is, you can draft your own policy by taking in the suggestions that MOE has given through NISP 2019. It's not necessary that you adopt the whole policy as your policy. You can definitely take up what you want and what is possible at the institute level. You prepare a draft policy, you get the management to approve it, your college council has to approve it, and once you are approved, you can inform the MOE that you have adopted the policy at the institute level. And once the policy has been adopted, you can definitely move on with your activities, and then at the end of every year, try to conduct an appraisal of your activities and how far you have gone, how well you have done. This is all about NISP. And so always remember that NISP policy is just a guiding framework. It's not mandatory that you adopt everything. You can definitely transform it into your own policy. You can just search the net. Many of the institutes have already adopted the policy. I know St. Peter's and a few colleges have already adopted the NISP policy. So these are things that you already know. I just went into detail only for the benefit of those who might have not read about the NISP policy. You can definitely go on the net and download the NISP document and see for yourselves what are the major provisions. Okay, thank you. Anybody who wants to ask something? Anyway, thank you so much for your patient listening. I know it's not easy to listen, but you have been very cooperative. I thank all the participants for your patient listening. And I also thank Dr. Sheba and Dr. Revati and our Vice Principal for this opportunity. Thank you very much.